No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just going to keep you right where you're at right now.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Realm presents Break It Down with Bryan H.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of Break It Down with Bryan H. I'm your host, Bryan H. Waters. Now, before we get started, make sure you are subscribed to the Wrestling Realm on YouTube. Make sure you've hit the button. Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and a host of other podcasts which you can find right in the link of this show. So, folks, we are certainly on the road to WrestleMania, and as the looks of it, it looks like that we're definitely getting a Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, some form of combination in the main event. However, Becky's suspended. So let's talk about what happened on Monday Night Raw. We saw Becky Lynch confront Stephanie McMahon. Actually, should say Becky came out there and Stephanie told her, like, look, you're not cleared. Until you get cleared, I'm going to have to suspend you after, the back and forth banter. And Stephanie just, Becky wasn't having it. For whatever reason, she felt like there was a setup involved. And I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, okay, seems kind of weird. Why is she getting upset? I felt that looked like they were trying to force a Stone Cold Steve Austin versus a Vince McMahon type thing. And as I was texting a few of my friends, one of the things I said is, this is 2019. This isn't 1999. It's not cool to hate your bosses anymore. We don't hate our bosses anymore and work those jobs. When we get to the point we hate our boss, we get new jobs. And if you don't believe it's happening in the wrestling business, look at Cody Rhodes. So I'm sitting there watching it, and I said, okay, why is Becky doing this? Because it just didn't make any sense. So, going on, and eventually Stephanie McMahon says, look, you're going to leave me with no choice. And Becky's saying, you don't want to do that. And they go back and forth. Stephanie announces Becky's suspended until she goes and see the doctor. Now, clearly, what I'm seeing is Stephanie McMahon is clearly trying to protect her WrestleMania investment. She even made it known, I would love to see you take out Ronda Rousey, considering what she did to me. Let's not forget last year's WrestleMania. So that happens, and I'm like, all right, whatever. Then we made it worse. Ronda Rousey confronts Becky Lynch in the back, and I tried to watch this over and over again. I'm like, well, that don't even look too good because, she got in her face and Ronda said a few things and Becky didn't say anything. And I don't know if it was, at least it would have made sense if Becky had been out of breath and just didn't have no more energy. That's the way I'm looking at it, as I break this thing down. But to me, that just didn't make any sense. So we fast forward to Monday Night Raw. Tuesday night SmackDown Live. And Becky's Charlotte Flair comes out there and she's bragging, and then she talks about she's rooting for Becky and she's being very obnoxious, which she does very well. And then Becky comes out, and one of the things I like was when she said, so what are you going to do? You're going to, bad enough you stole my dad's catchphrase. Now you're going to steal Roman Reigns' entrance, because Becky came through the crowd. And she said, she better have a ticket. Well, she gets in the ring, and then all of a sudden, Triple H music hit. I was like, uh-oh. So I do like the fact that he seems to be more involved on SmackDown. And as he comes out there, he says, look, he breaks it up, and he tells Becky, tells Charlotte to go away, and tells Becky, look, you need to get cleared, bottom line. And she said, and which kind of made sense from Monday, she said, I just feel like you guys are trying to set me up, and that's when he told her, he told security, let up on her. He told her to get cleared or else. And Triple H was about to leave, and then boom, Becky comes back with, speaking of, is Stephanie cleared? And that just made it personal. And that's what took Triple H to a new level. And I tweeted from the Wrestling Realm Twitter account at Wrestling Realm. I said, we're going to mess right around and get Becky Lynch versus Triple H at WrestleMania. Ah, boy, I don't want to see that. Hopefully that does not happen. It was a joke. But, you know, he's found a way to get involved in the hottest thing again. We have never seen that before, right? So afterwards, you know, he told her that, you know, she was trying to get herself suspended, that she was hyping herself up because deep down inside she knows she can't beat Ronda. And I'm like, come on, man. Really? Like, clearly she feels she can beat Ronda. Yeah, she attacked her. She took out Nia Jax with one punch backstage. So I just want to see like where they're going with this. And I didn't really want to see Becky Lynch and Charlotte and Ronda Rousey in a triple threat match. But I was on the Big Gold Belt podcast, the DMV roundtable discussion this past week. And shout out to Will Mahoney, which you'll hear a clip from him later in the show, because I got another clip I really want you to hear. But he brought up a good point of, while he agreed, he said that he feels that the WWE wants Charlotte to get some of that coverage. And that made me think. It's like, yeah, if Becky is going to be in the main event, well-deserved, because she's been busting her tail. But we can't deny the fact that Becky's only been hot since August. Then there's Charlotte. If there ever is a first time for women to be in a main event, obviously it's going to be Ronda Rousey because of the star power. But Charlotte also deserves it just on the simple fact that she has been carrying this division for a year. Well over a year. She's been the hottest thing in wrestling. So that when I thought about that, and I said, yeah, you know what? She deserves it. Why not? You know, if anybody who need to be named on the first main event of WrestleMania with women involved, it should be Charlotte. Especially, I mean, and just look at her career. She was, you know, her and Becky Lynch also were amongst the first time they actually had like a poster which featured the women where they were in a featured spot, and that was WrestleMania 32. So let's move on. We saw Daniel Bryan take on Jeff Hardy in the main event. Daniel Bryan would lose by disqualification because Rowan saved him after Jeff Hardy would hit the Swanton bomb, and, you know, he had Daniel Bryan beat. The thing I love about this, Samoa Joe, through all of this, has been looking better than everybody. We had earlier in the night Randy Orton taking on Mustafa Ali. Randy Orton wins. Randy Orton wins. RKO. Boom, whatever. All of a sudden, Samoa Joe shows up, puts Randy in the, he beats up Ali, and then he puts, whatever way it happened, he put Randy in the coquina clutch. He promised that he was coming for Randy Orton. He said, I know I got to devenomize the Viper, and best believe it's coming. He said that last week. Then Daniel Bryan came out, and he started walking towards him, and he's like, uh-oh. And Daniel Bryan just stood there, and he started kind of backing up, and then all of a sudden Rowan gets in front, and Joe kind of walked past, like, you know what, I don't want those problems. And then Daniel Bryan would talk about why, you know, complaining, and why he shouldn't have to fight Joe and all this other, fight, you know, Jeff Hardy and all this other stuff. Later on, we saw AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy backstage, and they had back and forth, and AJ brought it up. He said, with your problems, should you even be the guy to represent the company? Jeff Hardy clapped back and said, well, clearly you pretty much lost, so should you be the guy? And that would lead to them later on when AJ Styles, when he showed up, and one of the people he hit was Jeff Hardy with the Styles Clash. You didn't see Mustafa and Jeff Hardy touch each other. Two faces. Didn't make sense. That'll come later, you know, because after the match, here comes Samoa Joe and Samoa Joe and Randy Orton. So, you know, it was another melee towards the end of the night. But at the end of the day, like I said, I believe Samoa Joe has been looking better than everybody. So, one of the things I did not like on Monday Night Raw, matter of fact, you know, it's the tapped out. Let's roll right into it.
Here's our tapped out segment of the week.
All right, tapped out this week. Ronda Rousey running through the Riot Squad. Riot Squad, one of the hottest tag teams in the business right now, as far as the women are concerned. Obviously, I've been vocal about not liking them, and I've said time and time again, it's not that I do not like them as a team. It's that they are heels, and they are playing their job, doing their job very well. That's causing me not to like them. So I'm watching them, and I'm like, oh my goodness, these girls, and Rousey, she beats Liv Morgan. Then she beat Sarah. And I'm like, all right. Now, I love the fact that Ruby Riot didn't want to get involved. I've said this on the show before. Ruby Riot could be a credible contender for Ronda Rousey and for her title. To me, with WrestleMania pretty much being in the bag, there's no reason for this match to happen at Elimination Chamber or happen at Fastlane. I just don't think you touch those matches that you already know you're pretty much selling, because we're not crazy. But the thing I did hope for was that, the thing I didn't really like was, why do we have to have Ronda Rousey take out the Riot Squad? This would have made sense to me if Rousey, had she just become champion and she was getting ready for somebody like a credible challenger or her first title defense on pay-per-view, or if Rousey was just starting and she had to prove herself. So that's where that would have made sense. This right here did not make sense. Moving on to SmackDown. We have, before we get there, Boss and Her Connection, they are officially in the Elimination Chamber match. So they got to be heavily favorites, Sasha and Bayley. So, I love their love fest, how they just love each other so much. I was listening to Sasha, finally got a chance to listen to it on Edge and Christian's podcast, and I thought it was really good. I kind of, will have to admit, made me respect her a little bit more. Because I always respected her, but it made me respect her more and made me a little bit more interested in what she does. And I feel like she's now finally embracing that boss character. She said she picked it because that's what people used to call Snoop. But now it feels like she's finally embracing it. But I'm moving on. Naomi and Carmella together. They are an official team, and that will round out everything for the Elimination Chamber. So I'm going off the top of the head. So bear with me if I miss any teams. We have Sasha and Bayley, Mandy and Sonya, the Iconics, Naomi and Carmella, Tamina and Nia Jax, and the Riot Squad. Think I got it right? Yeah. So those are your teams for the Elimination Chamber. The heavily favorites to me going in are Tamina and Nia Jax. That would prove dominance. I wouldn't be surprised if the Riot Squad. I think the team that has no chance in hell is Naomi and Carmella. No offense to them. I just think they're going to play on the non-experience. Sonya and Mandy could be a surprise. And then you also have Sonya and Mandy, who could be a surprise. And it's another team. So I'm interested to see where we go with that. But on SmackDown, before I go to break, on SmackDown, we saw Naomi and we saw the triple threat tag team match between Naomi and Carmella against the Iconics, against Fire and Desire, or Fire and Ice, or Fire and something, Mandy and Sonya. And just when we thought, every time, and I love the way they're doing the story. Last week it was revealed reason why Mandy had did what she did, but it's every time she was so close to getting her hands on her, nope. Naomi, that is, pronouns, pal. Every time Naomi was close to getting her hands on Sonya Deville, it didn't happen. On Mandy Rose, I'm all over the place. But then in the end of the night, it was all said and done. Naomi, as soon as she got in there and she was illegal, Peyton Royce was in the way. And because Peyton Royce was in the way, that allowed Mandy to hit her finisher 1, 2, 3. Just goes to show you can get caught slipping. And how about this? Shout out to Naomi for this one, because of the way she has been putting Mandy Rose over. Let's look at it from a outside of the box point. We all know Naomi is more experienced. However, because of that, we've seen her, these losses don't hurt Naomi. This is just creating a bigger story because every time she loses, she gets caught slipping, or it's an unfair advantage. And that's what's going to make it great when Naomi finally beats her. So I'm going to get ready to go to break because I got a new podcast I would like to introduce you guys to.
This is Ashley N. Baker, and I am the host of the newest, hottest show about nothing but sports, brought to you by Barn Burner. Make sure you guys tune into the show every Thursday night where you'll get real, raw sports talk. Make sure you guys also keep up with us on Twitter at Sports A&B. Back to Break It Down with Brian H. Waters, brought to you by the Wrestling Wrealm.
And I'm back. Ladies and gentlemen, shout out to my good friend Ashley Nicole Baker coming out with her new podcast, A&B Sports. If you're listening to this on the later part of your week, it dropped already, so make sure you are following the channels because it will be supported and promoted. If not, look out for it if you listen to the show. So definitely excited. People may know Ashley and I used to work together when we were under the tutelage of Glenn Thomas down at Fox Sports 1340. So now let's talk about Rusev and Shinsuke beating the Club, Anderson and Gallows, the Good Brothers. I really like this team. I'm going to talk more about Rusev and frustrations later because, of course, the Shark has a question about that coming up. But, I like this team. I want to see where they go. I know Rusev has voiced some frustrations over the past week, I think on Lillian Garcia's show about things always changing. But that's Rusev, This is the guy who laughed at Vince McMahon and then got removed from the match with The Undertaker only to be added back. So, speaking of which, WWE they made it official. They are going back to Saudi Arabia May 3rd now, folks. There was rumors that WWE, and we'll bring it up, that Saudi Arabia wanted to see The Rock come there as champion or maybe win the championship there. May 3rd is the day after The Rock's birthday. How would you be surprised? Let's look at the guy who will probably be his opponent because they wanted Roman Reigns. It's a guy named Seth Rollins who will probably beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Would you be surprised to see those two? After all, Rollins has been going on record saying, we don't need The Rock anymore. I think we can sell out WrestleMania. So, how cool would that be? So what else? Braun Strowman and Kurt Angle beating Drew McIntyre and Baron Corbin. I asked this before. Why is Baron Corbin involved? He should be away from Kurt Angle. It looked like Kurt Angle was going to retire this past Monday. Instead, he didn't, and he's sticking around apparently. So, is he due for one more big match? And if so, who is that? Who would you like to see Kurt Angle have his last big match against? I don't think Kurt Angle is as bad. I know there's rumors that the WWE is not happy with him in the ring, but look who he's been working with. Drew McIntyre, I thought they told a great story. Baron Corbin, no. So, and give me Kurt Angle and Triple H one more time, please, just one more time. The Major Bros, Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. They had an interesting segment backstage. They both said, we both suck. Kurt Hawkins lost over 250 matches in a row. So my question is, when will these guys, I think they're going to get a push. I don't know when, but I think they do for a good push. I think the fans will like them, and I think something will happen where we'll be like, you know what? Let's put these guys over. Don't be surprised if they win the match at WrestleMania. That would be the perfect way to get Hawkins out of that losing streak, right at WrestleMania. Let them have a WrestleMania moment. I don't think they had one since they was with Edge and they got beat up in the main event at WrestleMania 24. Like Ryder said, we were the youngest tag team champions, So that's interesting. So moving on, EC3. First of all, can we cancel this Alexa Bliss segment, Moment of Bliss? Or maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's making me annoyed, and maybe it's doing its job. Every time I turn around, she comes on, and I'm excited to hear what she has to say. I'm an Alexa Bliss fan. But then all of a sudden somebody interrupts her, and she even said, like, can somebody stop interrupting me? Now, it was very interesting how she was, flirting with EC3, and she was talking about, all just wild stuff. And he was sitting there and was like, okay, is he going to accept it? I'm interested to see where this goes. But then Dean Ambrose came out there, and that would lead to a match between them two. And then Dean Ambrose lost, folks. Now, last week the rumors were, or no, not the rumors. It came out that Ambrose isn't re-signing with the WWE. So that made people wonder, is this a work? Is it not? The reason why they asked that is because when has the WWE ever acknowledged somebody will not re-sign after their contract is up? It's never happened. But I got a special clip from my boy Will that I want you to hear, because it's not just me who feels a certain way about Dean Ambrose.
One of the things I used to say when they first broke him off singles and they gave him all the branding as unstable, I was like, what the hell does unstable mean? They've never explained it. They've never defined it, but they kept plastering unstable all over him. And I think that's been a big part of his singles run issue, is they've never really defined him. His greatest value in WWE has been as a member of the Shield. But even without that, I mean, this is not a case of a Cody Rhodes or one of these guys that's left where they can say, well, I never got my shot. Dude had the world title. He's had multiple IC and tag title runs. He's been U.S. champ, Money in the Bank. He's pretty much done it all outside of winning the Rumble and main event in WrestleMania. Since he came up, he's always been in the top mix or near the top. So the dude's pretty much in a case where I would say Dean Ambrose has done pretty much everything he can do.
So that comes from the Big Gold Belt Podcast. Make sure you check them out at the Big Gold Belt Podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts from, and follow them on Twitter at BGB Group. So check them out. I'm always talking to Two Champs all the time. He always, we always enjoy having good wrestling conversations. So another thing I liked on Monday Night Raw, folks, Elias and Jeff Jarrett. I'm loving this. I want to see where this goes. First of all, we get Jeff Jarrett in the ring, in the WWE ring, something we never thought we would get. Jeff Jarrett's one of those guys that he was really good. I'll say, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, he was my favorite. He was a good hand, but he was fun to watch because he was so fun to root against, and you love seeing, especially the stuff. I mean, they wouldn't be able to do it now, but especially when the women all beat him up after he was hitting them all with guitars. So I think it's good. And plus, Elias is a heel. I love heel Elias. That's what he needs to be. He doesn't need to be a face. Where do they do that at? All right, moving on. Let's talk some MLW real quick. We got new tag team champions this past week. They had a show, and the Hart Foundation. In this match, it was Teddy Hart and I'm going to say Harry Smith. I'm not sure. I get mixed up which the names he goes through. D.H. Smith, David Hart Smith, Harry Smith. But yeah, the British Bulldog's son defeated Pentagon and Felix, I believe that's what it was. The Lucha Bros. No, that ain't that name. But yeah, they beat them for the MLW Tag Team titles. And, of course, Brian Pillman Jr. was there. Afterwards, one of the things that was interesting on the show was as they were celebrating, MJF came and Teddy Hart pretty much told him, like, go away. MJF is the former, that title name escapes me. But it's their, like, mid-card title. And so MJF, I think he had to vacate the title, and Teddy Hart won, or maybe Teddy Hart beat him for it. Nonetheless, Teddy Hart's that is a double champion. And he told him, he's like, go away, go play with, he said, go be elite or something, which we all know MJF is signed to All Elite Wrestling. So, and then we also got a new champion as Filthy Tom Lawler defeated Low Key to become the MLW Heavyweight Champion of the World. I have to say, folks, when I watched their Battle Royal this past fall, you could see, I was like, yeah, Filthy Tom Lawler's on his way to something big. He came in an early spot, and was able to survive. I think they had 40 people or something like that, or 40 or 50 people. He was able to survive, and I said, this guy is going to be something special. I figured that they were going to go with him, as opposed, they were going to go with low key probably being like the transitional champion, even though it wasn't necessarily a transition. But when I started watching, Shane Strickland was their champion. He dropped it to low key, and then Filthy Tom Lawler took the title from him. So it's time to come from the realm. And now for our From the Realm segment, where I answer your questions from the Facebook fan page, the Facebook group page, and the Twitter at Wrestling Realm. All right, From the Realm this week. First question. We only got a couple questions. So first question comes from Viewed from the Top Rope. It's probably Chad sending this. He runs their Twitter handle at Viewed from Top Rope. You heard me on you heard Chad on here a few weeks ago. So make sure you're checking out their show. His question is, you are offered $100,000. The only caveat is that you must watch the entirety of the Vince Russo booked-ish WCW in its entirety without stopping. Would you subject yourself to this torture for the money? $100,000, absolutely. It's just watching Vince Russo in WCW. I get some popcorn, and I probably have my iPad. And you know what? If I've got to sit through it, I'm gonna live tweet it just to make and try to tweet the worst stuff out to make it even better. The best part is I'll be getting paid to do it. So who wouldn't get paid to watch wrestling? This Russo stuff was really bad, but I don't know, man. It was bad, but yeah, it's not bad enough where I had to turn down $100,000. All right, next question. Coming from the Shark, Sean Williams. If a superstar shakeup, WWE superstar shakeup takes place after Mania as rumored, who should be moved? All right, I would love to see Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn come back. No, you know what? They gotta stay on Raw because they gotta go against Seth Rollins. So I'll leave them there. I think it's time to move Charlotte to Raw. That would be fine, after WrestleMania. But then again, Becky's more than likely going to move, so we'll leave her there. Let's move the Usos to Raw. Let's move Naomi to Raw. Let's bring over Sasha and Bayley to SmackDown, and then have them. They can feud with the Iconics. They can feud with Sonya and Mandy. Becky and Carmella can move over to Raw. Her and Naomi can feud with Tamina and Nia Jax. They can also feud with the Riot Squad. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I don't know what it looks like. I guess EC3. I'm hoping he stays on Monday Night Raw. I don't necessarily want to see anybody called up to the main roster. I like it the way it is, but and then maybe Randy Orton. Randy Orton can always go to Raw. So that's where I'm with that. Yeah, we can get some more matches between Randy Orton and Seth Rollins again. This time Rollins being the face, and Randy being the heel. So that's where I'm with that. Last question. With Hideo gone and Rusev venting his frustrations, what are the chances of him leaving? I don't see Rusev leaving. One of the things, and I'm glad you asked this question because it brings me to a point. I don't see him leaving. I think he'll complain, but at the end of the day, he's not going to be more over anywhere else. People could say he's going to be more over in AEW or the Indies, but I don't think so. I just think, I don't know if his style, we don't know what AEW style is, so I think he stays. And the thing is, he's not like buddies with those guys. Like, he's not like a Finn Balor or like a Seth Rollins. Or maybe not Seth Rollins, but like an AJ Styles, where he's not like buddies with that guy. I know there's rumors that they offered one WWE superstar so much money and perks that they would be crazy to turn it down. My guess, they probably did that to Finn Balor. But one of the things that Booker T said on his show was he would just hope that AEW focuses on making new stars. Don't get a lot of former WWE guys. He said when he looks at all these names, he puts stars by Kazarian and Christopher Daniels, because those are TNA guys to him. So Hopefully they don't do that. Hopefully we don't see an influx of WWE superstars, because then it will get old quick. Booker T said, like, with his promotion, you only knew him. You know, make new stars, folks. So, ladies and gentlemen, that will wrap it up for episode number 55. Make sure you are subscribed and following us on all social media channels. And folks, if you like what you see, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, and check out the other content. If you're on YouTube, just click one of those buttons right there. So long, everybody.